Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of The Walking Dead. Please tell me that Daryl's not dead. Oh my god. Oh my god, that ending. I I don't even know cuz my whole mind after watching the beginning of the episode, and I know that they gave a sneak peek of the Michonne and Rick scene at the beginning of the week, and to me all I kept thinking was, "Oh my god, they're going to kill her. They're going to kill her." It's like this is the calm before the storm. They're too happy, and so I was so unsettled in this episode. And then once Glenn and Michonne moved away from Daryl, I was like, oh my god, one of these two is dead, and they can't. Like, I'm thinking they're not going to kill Glenn because they already trickeried us with that earlier in the season, and now it's only him and Michonne. So I'm like, Michonne's gonna die. And then you see the scene with Rick, and he's at the gate, and he's like, "Is Michonne here?" And he's like, he's talking to Abraham, and he's like, "No." And I'm just thinking, that's it. She's gone. Like, they're gonna kill her off. And I'm like, so my mind throughout all of that was that Michonne is gonna die, and I was like mentally preparing for the absolute worst because that would be the worst for me. And then Daryl showing up at the end, and then this Dwight, and then the blood splatter. I just, I don't know, guys. I was not prepared for that, and I don't even know. I don't even know what I will do if they start off the next episode and Daryl is dead. I like literally have to regroup here. Wow. Yeah. I'm all like trying to compartmentalize that. So, at the beginning of the episode, we have all these moments where, we see Glenn and Maggie in the shower together, but then it kind of turns somber when he sees all the bruises on her back, which is what happened when she was captured by the Saviors. We have a moment with Abraham and Sasha, and there's some cute eyes with each other because obviously those two are getting together now. And then we see the moment where Carol decides to leave, and I'm like, where are these people going? I just don't get it. Why are people leaving what is arguably their best location that they've had? And where is she going? So when her car gets shot up and all that happens, I'm just like, oh my God, here we go. I mean, is Carol a badass? Yes. To me, she's a rude gal, okay? She is just somebody who will protect herself. So when she's crying and she's got the rosary in her hand and she's all like, it's like that moment when she was in the prison cell, or she was in the cell, and she grabbed the rosary and she was hyperventilating, and she just knows how to use her feminine side to her benefit, where everyone just thinks that she's just, oh, this dainty little flower. Oh, she's just this, pathetic woman who can't handle herself. And then, boom, opens fire on these disgusting men. Like, they might as well have been licking their lips, the dude in the car. Like, gross. So that moment when she shot them all up, I was like, good, that's what you get. You started this, you blew out her tires, and now you're going to ask for forgiveness? Please, whatever. So the scene off the top when she's with, I still don't remember his name, and she kisses him goodnight, and then, or they kiss, and then she's gone the next day, and then he goes to tell Rick, and then we've got everybody running out of camp. Like, we've got Daryl going after the Saviors, then we've got Glenn and Michonne, and then Rosita going after Glenn, and then we've got Rick and Morgan going after Carol. I'm like, can we stop? Like, look, I get it. I love Carol too, but damn, like, damn. So anyway, all the stuff that went down with between Morgan and Rick, obviously it was nice that Morgan told Rick the truth about him saving the wolf, but then ultimately, like he said, it went full circle. You could say, well, if you hadn't let the wolf into Alexandria, then Denise never would have been in danger, and she still would have saved Carl. So, his whole full circle story, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But if you just didn't bring him in, she still would have been there to save him. But, his theory was he tried to save him. He tried to rehabilitate him. Then he ultimately saved Denise, which then allowed Denise to save Carl. But if you just didn't bring him in, or killed him when you should have, then she still would have been there. So fine, whatever. But, those two needed to sort of hash out their stuff. And I get it. Like, we need to be able to live in a world where it's not just you just kill anybody that comes up on you. So even when Rick rolled up on the guy who Carol shot, and he's laying down on the ground. He's like, "Where is she?" And he doesn't say anything. He's like, boom, stabs him in the head. And I'm like, well, there it is. Rick has no time or patience for this foolery. So, the fact that he just took him out was classic Rick right now. But I like that Morgan was sort of saying to him, he found out what happened back at the prison, and then that Rick basically banished Carol. So, back then you didn't just sort of, like, you let her, you banished her, and so that was who you were then. Now what would you have done? He's like, I basically would have been thankful that she would have done it, because his mind frame has changed so much. So even like he said, he's proud of Carol because she took out 4 men on the road there. It's like, yeah, Carol's got to do what she's got to do. If it comes down to her or somebody else, she's gonna kill them. Period. Bottom line. So anyway, the episode was definitely all, running after people who just wouldn't listen. Daryl wouldn't listen to Michonne and Glenn. And ultimately, does this mean Daryl's dead? I truly hope not. But that ending shot did not sit well. Like, oh God. So on some lighter, happier notes, that shot at the beginning, obviously, when Rick and Michonne are laying comfortably in bed, and it looks like they've just finished a nice romp, and then she grabs the apple, and then she's feeding him, and then he's snuggling with her, and he's just like all in her nook and everything, and kissing her on the shoulder. I mean, for all those who think, oh, this was just like a one night stand or a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, I'm glad to see that the show is at least, whether it's short lived or not, they are at least establishing that this is a relationship, and that there is more than just, I need a itch and I gotta scratch it. I have an itch and I want to scratch it kind of thing. And, we got the sense of that, even though, people are like, oh, they haven't had to talk about the relationship. These people are grown. They don't need to talk about their relationship. And it is, to me, that moment when they both locked hands with each other was their moment of saying, we're in this. And then the next episode, when he reached over to her in the trailer and rubbed her knee and she grabbed his hand, it's just like, they just unspoken words that they're in it together. So when they were woke up today and in this episode, and they're both in bed together, and and then the conversation that he has after, I mean, Rick is a little too like, this is our world, and this is like, we own it. I'm like, Rick, you need to calm down with that kind of talk, because you have no clue who this Negan guy is. You have no clue what he's capable of doing. So bring that talk down a little bit. But I did like that he was basically like, he's never going to let anybody take what is theirs again. And I like that Michonne is saying the same thing, like, neither am I. And you realize that they are either going to die trying to save it, because what else is all this for if it's not for the love, right? And at the end, when Rick gets back to Alexandria and he's talking to Abraham, and he says, is Michonne back? And he's like, no. And he's like, and Abraham basically says, is it worse, kind of, is it going to be hard to go out there and fight with when you have somebody that you love? And he's like, yes. And then I love that Abraham says, me too. He goes, but this just basically makes me want to rip a strip off of somebody's ass even more now. So he's got more to fight for because he's got Sasha. And I feel that's how Rick feels too. But it was nice to see him worried, because let's face it, he's never been worried about Michonne because she's such a fighter and a warrior, but there's such an unknown out there. So it was nice to see him like, kind of like, nervous that she wasn't back yet, and him looking out, and then Abraham basically saying, any minute now, any second now, they're going to be back. And it's like, and then you see them tied up, and I was like, oh my God. I just can't. They can't kill off, like, look, they can obviously do whatever they want. They killed Lori. They can do whatever they want, but I'm just dreading if that happens. So yeah, I mean, this was a good episode. It was a little bit more quiet than I thought for the penultimate episode. But at the end of the day, we're going to hit a 90-minute season finale that I'm sure is going to blow my mind. Oh, and the other thing was that Maggie was slumping over in serious pain by the end of the episode. So clearly her pregnancy might be in jeopardy, and this is not going to be good. So what does this mean? Is that going to be the loss we get in this in the 90-minute finale, that she loses her pregnancy? Maybe that's going to be terrible for them. And in a way, I feel like what's her name? The young one. She's going to sort of be like her adoptive daughter, basically, because she's like 16 or whatever, and she doesn't have a mother or a father anymore. So I feel like Glenn and Maggie will sort of become her surrogate parents, just like I feel Michonne is to Carl and the little one there. Okay, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Yeah, that ending, that was rough. I really hope Daryl's not dead. I really, really do. And the fact that he went out there to sort of, get this Dwight guy who he knew he should have killed back in the burning forest. And the fact that he let him live, and now he's just like this vengeful dick. Like, God. Anyway, all right, guys. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. I'll see you next week. Bye.